Good morning. We have a lot of news for you today on this Friday, just before the weekend. This is where we can all have a nice quiet weekend. We get everything done today. I wish that was so, because today is day 335, and there really aren't any more weekends, weekdays. One day just blends right into the next. Good news. The post-holiday surge reduction continues. Surge reduction, confusing language. Post-holiday surge reduction continues. The reduction continues. Numbers are down. Positivity 4.65, lowest since December 11th. December 11th is where you started to see the holiday surge go up after post-Thanksgiving hangover surge. 151 people passed away. They are in our thoughts and prayers. Hospitalizations down 163. That's good news. That's a big number. ICUs down 41, intubations down 12. Percent of people hospitalized by regions, down all across the state. Finger Lakes, Long Island, still the highest hospitalization rate. Finger Lakes has been a problem for weeks. Long Island for a shorter period, but we've been seeing Long Island problematic relative to the rest of the state. Now you can say, well, Finger Lakes are down, Long Island is down from where it was. True. But from our point of view, it's relative across the state and who's highest across the state, and that's Finger Lakes and Long Island. Positivity, highest rate, Long Island, Mid-Hudson. In New York City, the Bronx, and that has been a continuing trajectory. Staten Island has made good progress. Manhattan has always been low. Again, it's fascinating when we have the time and go back to look at the behavior of people in communities during COVID, because that's what is determining these numbers. If you look at the positivity decline, we were 7.9 January 4. That was the high point. That's the collective Thanksgiving, Christmas parties, Hanukkah parties, Kwanzaa parties, gatherings, celebrations, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Buffalo Bills game excitement. 1.4 is the high point, 7.9, we're down to 5.3. So we had discussed this, we were expecting this surge, and we handled it, and we're on the other side of it. You also see it in the number of hospitalizations that are dropping. The experts, in quotes, those are air quotes, because I don't believe anyone really knows what's coming with COVID. And that's been true since day one. They give us their best medical advice, but nobody knows. But the experts say the trend for New York should continue to drop. That's what the expert models are showing. Vaccinations, we've done over 1.7 million vaccinations. It is going very, very well. Total 1.789 first doses, and some people are starting to get their second doses. We have used all of the allocation that we have received for weeks 1 to 6, right? The way this works is we get a weekly allocation. We have used all of the allocation. That means you ran out. No, calm down. I didn't say we ran out. We've used the allocation we've received. We then start to receive the next week's allocation, which comes in during the week. And that's where we are now. We get another 250,000 doses. That's starting to be delivered. So we will start to, we're going to be using that new vaccination allocation. Again, local governments, don't schedule any appointments until you know you have an allocation from the state, which means we get the allocation from the federal government. We then tell the local governments what their vaccination is. Vaccination usage rate, needles in arms, is much higher than it was. Again, we're at 100%, but you still see a differential across the state. And places that are lower than 100%, you know, I'd like to see every region at 100%. We are going to get 16% more doses from the federal government. That is good news. That will come next week and for the following 2 weeks. We did this on a call with the White House. The governors have been pushing the federal government for months to give us an allocation of what we're going to get in the next few weeks so we can plan. This is incredibly difficult, if not impossible, only to tell me what I'm going to get next week, and then I have to scramble to get the distribution for next week. We now have a 3-week allocation, thanks to the Biden administration, which is much, much better than where we were. So I can then say to local governments, you're going to get 16% more next week and the week after and the week after. Plan on that. Hospital workers, 1A priority. They are still the priority, even though we have a lot of other categories eligible, because vaccinating hospital workers protects hospital capacity. If hospitals get overwhelmed, I am telling you what they're going to say. They're going to say we have a staff shortage. Not that nurses and doctors disappeared, but that they got sick. If they are vaccinated, they won't get sick. Vaccinate the healthcare workers. We're up to 73%, and that is great news. January 18th, we were at 63%. We then did a full court press. I used my most persuasive charm offensive to convey to hospitals that they had to get this vaccination done, convey to local governments they had to get the vaccinations done. We went from 63 to 70% in 10 days. That's a point a day. So that's phenomenal progress, and I thank them all very much for doing a good job. Yes, it was urgent. Yes, I said it was urgent, but they responded, and I thank them very much. Again, you see a variation across the state. Some places are higher, some places are lower. 73 is the average, but places that are below, we'd like to see everybody rise up. This is, and there's a variation by hospitals across the state. These are the top 25% of performing hospitals and the bottom 25% of performing hospitals. Okay, we have about 200 hospitals, give or take, in the state. This is the highest vaccinating, 25%, and the lowest vaccinating, 25%. I can't read this chart, so you can read it at your leisure. These are the top 25 hospitals, not percent, top 25 hospitals, and the bottom 25 hospitals. And this I can almost read. Syosset Hospital, 100%, great job. Cayuga Medical Center, 100%, great job. Staten Island University Hospital, 100%, great job. NYC, New York City Health and Hospitals, Woodhull, 100%, great job. Northern Westchester, 97, very good. Not great because you're not 100. If you were 100, you'd be great, but 97 is very good. University Hospital Stony Brook, 96, good. Not great. 37%, New York City Harlem Hospital Center. New York City H&H North Central Bronx Hospital, 38%. 40% Montefiore Mount Vernon Health. How do you have some hospitals at 100 and some hospitals at 37%? Please, local departments of health, look into this. I will wager you this. If we get into trouble with hospital capacity, the hospitals that are on the bottom of this list will be the first hospitals to have a problem with hospital capacity and getting overwhelmed. That is my wager. I just hope it never happens. Bronx positivity is still high, and we've been talking about this for weeks. It's at 7.06%. We're going to open a mass vaccination site at Yankee Stadium. You cannot play baseball when you come, but you can come to Yankee Stadium. It is a joint effort. I want to thank the city, Mayor de Blasio. I want to thank the Yankees, Randy Levine. I told him that we would not disturb the grass. Please honor that commitment. Somos Community Care is actually going to operate it. Henry Munoz, who's done a fantastic job for this state. I want to thank them very much. And the National Guard will be constructing and administering the site. And I want to thank all the National Guard people who I've been out there with them many, many times through COVID and many other emergencies. They do a great job. And when I ask them to come out, I go out and I join them, and I'm going to join them at Yankee Stadium. I'm going to be more of a construction supervisor, manager role. Not that I won't do the heavy lifting. Dr. Zucker is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting, poles, tents, but I will do the supervising of the operation. Any local government that needs help in providing social equity efforts, let us know. There's two issues on social equity. People have to have access, poor communities, Black community, Latino community, and they have to accept it and get past the vaccine hesitancy, which we are seeing, and it is a very real issue, and we've been talking about it for weeks, and we expected it, but it is a very real issue. But any local government that wants a specialized effort, we will work with them to do it. Overall, we're reopening the economy and we're protecting public health. We said it was never one or the other, it was always both. So it's smart and safe. It's following science and following data. You watch those numbers and you react to the numbers. What is happening with the positivity, what's happening with the new cases per capita, what's happening with the hospitalization rate, and adjust the economic valve as follows. New York City, we went from 7.1 in January. That was our high point in New York City. It was the high point across the state. That was the post-holiday surge high. We're down to 4.9%. And again, all the models project that number to continue to drop. New York City restaurants, on our current trajectory, we can reopen indoor dining at 25% on Valentine's Day. The restaurants want a period of time so they can notify workers, they can get up to speed for indoor dining, order supplies, et cetera. So we're saying indoor dining 25% on Valentine's Day. Going forward, we are very excited about the possibility of reopening venues with testing. We demonstrated it in Buffalo at the Buffalo Bills playoff game. 7,000 people tested before they went into the stadium. We've had virtually no cases of spread from that game, 7,000 people. We're not going to have the full vaccine for many, many months. In New York, we want to use testing as the key to reopening events. And we tested it in Buffalo, and we want to start to extend it. We're going to extend it in the New York State safe marriage receptions. Promise of marital bliss is returning. All patrons who attend the event will be tested. You can have 50% capacity of the venue, up to 150 people. It has to be approved by the local health department, and this will go into effect March 15th. We are developing more rapid testing capacity all across the state. We're also developing an app which a person, once they receive the test, can have on the app. So we're excited about this. We're also developing guidance, much like marriage receptions, for events where you can do testing and you can do monitoring, and the local health department can regulate it. So New York says, I do. I don't want to create any pressure for anyone. especially undue pressure. I don't want to create any personal pressure. I don't believe that's government's role to create personal pleasure, but here's an idea that you may want to consider. Restaurants are opened on Valentine's Day. You could make a reservation now or plan dinner on Valentine's Day. You propose on Valentine's Day, and then you can have the wedding ceremony March 15th, up to 150 people. People will actually come to your wedding because you can tell them with the testing, it will be safe. Everybody there will have been tested, and everybody will be safe. Because for a lot of these venues, I don't believe it's about the government restrictions. I believe if I said today, movie theaters can open to 100%, I don't believe people go. I believe people have to be confident that it's safe. And if you can say everyone in this reception is going to be tested. Again, no pressure, but it's just an idea. Get engaged on Valentine's Day, on the restaurants reopening, and March 15th, you can have the wedding, 150 people. New York State is exploring a low-cost New York State engagement ring that we would actually make available. It has a little heart on it, little I love New York, little COVID remembrance. That's not true. General caution on all of this. We make decisions based on facts, based on the numbers. New York City numbers down. These numbers are now down. But facts change. It sounds inconsistent. We like to think a fact is always a fact. No, facts change. COVID facts change dramatically, and they change often. There's now another new term in the COVID lexicon, variance of interest. Variance of interest. That's a new one. Variance of interest refers to these new strains that are popping up that we are just learning about, the UK strain, the Brazil strain, the South Africa strain. And medical experts are saying these strains could take over, they could be dominant, they could increase the infection rate. 6 weeks, you could have a dominant UK strain that could increase the infection rate. South Africa strain may be more resistant to a vaccine. I understand all the possibilities. And if there are facts, and if the facts change, then we will have a different situation. One state response that is a given, basically our precaution, if any area's hospital capacity hits 85%, then we go back to restrictions, right? Because hospital capacity is the red line. That's when you're in the danger zone. Hospital capacity, that's why I'm so persistent on the vaccination of healthcare workers. But we are subject to the facts if the facts change. I mentioned this the other day. I had a conversation with one of my daughters who has all sorts of what-if scenarios. What if it's true about the UK variant becomes dominant? What if the South Africa strain is vaccine resistant? What if the Brazil strain connects with the UK strain, connects with another strain? What if this, what if this, what if this? Yeah, there are possible scenarios that could develop that are problematic. That is true. This is the same daughter who said, don't tell me to relax, tell me why I should relax. I understand the anxiety. I feel the anxiety. I don't like knowing what is going to happen in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks. I don't like the feeling of being out of control. I don't like the feeling that you can wake up any morning and there's going to be a headline that says there's a new variant that is vaccine resistant. There's a new variant, because this virus is mutating all the time. There are not 5 or 6 mutations of this virus. There are hundreds and hundreds of mutations of this virus. And remember, the flu virus, every year you get a new vaccine because it changes a little bit. So yes, I feel the anxiety. And I feel that we're not in control. And yes, I like to be in control. Well, control freaks. Yeah, I like to be in control. I like to know what's coming down the road so I can prepare. This is a situation where nobody knows what's coming down the road. Nobody knows. I talk to the best experts. They'll have a theory, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, but nobody knows. So what do? You deal with the facts when you know them. If the numbers change, we change. If the enemy changes, we change. If the infection rate changes, we change. If a variant comes, we change. Well, why should I feel calm about that? Because we have proven multiple times that we can manage changes that develop. We managed the greatest change in this country. This state had more infections at one time than any country on the globe. This state. And we were alone when we got ambushed. And COVID came and nobody knew. It was here for months, nobody knew. We dealt with it. The infection rate went crazy. We dealt with it. Hospitals were overwhelmed. We were right on the brink of hospital capacity collapse, like California, like Italy. But it didn't happen because we handled it. We handled the fall surge. We handled the holiday surge. If the facts change, we will handle it. Should it relax us? No, it doesn't relax me. But I believe whatever happens, we can manage it because we have already managed the worst that has happened in this country. So I'm confident that if the facts change, the circumstances change, we will manage it. I can't predict what it will be, but I am confident that whatever it is, we can handle it. The reality on the vaccines, all of this is subject now to the production capacity of private drug companies and the United States' ability to procure. It's not about distribution. We have far more distribution capacity than we have supply. We have thousands of distributors and more distributors that can be brought online. The question is not really supply. The most accurate way to say supply is it's a question of production. United States government right now is a pass-through, right? You have private drug companies producing Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, hopefully, Moderna, Novavax. They're producing. The U.S. procures it, and then the U.S. sends it to us. But the faucet is the private production. We'll distribute all that we receive. But even with President Biden's new announcement of increase, which is very welcome, it's 6 to 9 months to get enough vaccine to vaccinate people in this country. I think President Biden, the federal government, should now consider the Defense Production Act. We went through this in the spring, and we paid a very high price for it. When we ran out of PPE, we ran out of reagents for testing, and we ran out of Q-tips. They call them nasal swabs. I call them big Q-tips. And we ran out of ventilators. And the manufacturers could not produce any more ventilators. What the Defense Production Act says is the federal government can say to private companies, you must produce this product. The problem on the drug production, the vaccine production, is the manufacturing capacity of the drug. These are very specialized machines, specialized equipment. This is not going to go away anytime soon. There probably will be a new virus that requires a new vaccine and a new booster shot, if you will. This is going to be multiple years. Use the Defense Production Act. Let's increase our manufacturing capacity of the drug. This is a war. The Defense Production Act was used in wartime. That's what the previous administration said to me. Well, that's for wartime. This is wartime. COVID is a war. More Americans died from COVID than World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam combined. So yes, we are at war. Use the Defense Production Act, because this is not about the next 6 to 9 months. This is about the next 2 to 3 years. New York State needs federal fairness. They're discussing the COVID relief package now. We need $15 billion in federal relief, and we need SALT repealed. On the COVID relief, finally, President Biden, thank you, put in state and local financing, $350 million. The governors, Democrat and Republican, have been calling for that for over a year. We need 15 of the 350. We need 15 of however they make the sausage between the Senate and the House. We need $15 billion in federal relief. And this is a fair request. New York State was ground zero. New York State had a different problem with COVID than any other state. That is a fact. Yes, I am the New York governor, and yes, I fight for the people of New York. That is my job. I represent the people of the state of New York, and I will fight for them and advocate for them. But I have no problem saying to any governor in this state, which I have, New York had a different problem than you had. New York was ambushed. New York got hit harder. New York was hurt by the federal negligence for letting the damn virus come here without telling us. New York lost more people. New York was the laboratory for all the other states to watch, so they had notice. New York was ground zero. We expect fairness from the federal government, but we also demand fairness from the federal government. And to my federal colleagues, congresspeople, senators, there are no excuses now. You are in charge. You are in many ways executives. The buck stops with you. Democrats control the Senate. Democrats control the House. We have a Democratic president. This is a different time in history. There is no one to point the finger to. We need you to deliver for New York. And when it comes to SALT, SALT was just a political theft. What they did in the federal government was they increased our taxes and they gave it to Republican states because they had Republican control. And their theory was, if you can do it, do it. It wasn't fair, it wasn't just. It was pure politics. They took from the blue states, they gave to the red. And the state that they took from most was New York State. And New Jersey, and Massachusetts, and California, and Connecticut. They took the most from those states. And those are all northeastern states. And it hurt the northeastern economy. And they gave it to the Republican states. Every Democratic congressperson, every Democratic senator said it was an outrage. and we'll fix it. Well, you know what? Fix it, because now you're in charge. I'm going to organize a national SALT repeal effort, because this is not just about New York. This is about all the states that were hurt. Public safety is a top priority. We want to talk about the economy coming back. The economy does not come back unless people know it's safe. Cities don't come back unless people know cities are safe. That is a blunt truth. We all understand the tension between police and certain members of the community, loss of trust, loss of respect. That's been true for over a year. I've said numerous times, problems don't go away if you deny them. They only mount. They get worse. It's true in life. It's true in society. It's true in government. Government leaders put people at the table, work it out. Make it a cathartic, collaborative process. Police have to police. They have to be able to do their job safely. The community has to believe they're treated fairly, and they're not discriminated against, and they're not abused. Come up with a new plan, a new understanding, but do it by April 1. April 1 is only 62 days away. Many localities are doing a great job. We have other localities that are trying to ignore the problem. The problem won't go away. Ignoring it will not address it. It's a failure of leadership. And the problem will only compound because on April 1, that locality will not be eligible for state funding. So, 62 days. Bottom line, the vaccine is scarce. Everybody wants more. And I said when this started, everybody's going to say the same thing, including me. Everybody wants more. When I get on the phone with the White House, I say, I want more. Every county executive says it. Every group says it. The vaccine is scarce. We are rationing the vaccine. That is what we are doing. And we're rationing it fairly. There are 1.3 million healthcare workers. They get 21%. There are 1.7 million essential workers. They get 27%. There's 65 plus 3.2 million. They get 52%. That's the percent of the population they are. I'm not picking a healthcare worker over an essential worker over a 65 plus person. We're doing it fairly by population because every life is as valuable as every other life. And these were the national priorities that were set, and we're doing it fairly. And I feel good about that. I'm saying to my local colleagues, don't play politics with vaccines. Don't play politics in this moment. You have healthcare workers. You have long-term care facility residents, long-term care facility staff, developmentally disabled staff, college professors, police officers, fire professionals, mass transit professionals, grocery store workers, child care, and then you have people who are 65 plus. It is divisive for a politician to say, well, I think police should get more. I think grocery store workers should get more. I think nurses should get more. It's divisive and it's cheap. Yes, you want to be a hero to the police? You say, I think the police should get more. It's cheap. Because if you want to be honest, you think the police should get more? Who on the list would you take it from? Would you take it from the nurses? Would you take it from the doctors? Would you take it from 65 plus? It's a zero-sum game. You can't stand up and play hero to any one group on that list. If you have any sense of honor or integrity, where would you take it from? I believe healthcare workers should get more. I believe developmentally disabled workers should get more. I believe school teachers should get more. I believe first responders should get more. I believe the subway and bus drivers should get more. I believe grocery store workers should get more. Yes. I believe daycare workers should get more. Yes. But if you want to say, well, they're not getting their fair share, then say at the same time who you would take it from on that list. Otherwise, you're playing politics, you're dividing people, you're scaring people, you're upsetting people at a very delicate time. We get 300,000 vaccines per week to do 7 million people. You can't do every one group. At least do it fairly. Political extremism is a problem in this country. We've seen it in Washington, D.C. They're now doing investigations. Government cannot tolerate criminal insurrection, and New Yorkers will not tolerate it. There are levels of extremism. What happened in Washington did not just happen overnight. It developed, and you could see it increasing over time. It was a building storm, and it starts with ugliness and threats on the internet, anonymous threats. We should confront them, we should get them, we should attack them. The internet, social media can really be a breeding ground for a lot of positive, but also for a lot of hate. And it builds. I see it here in New York on the internet. This building ugliness. Once you start to light fires, don't be surprised when the fire is out of control. That was the lesson of what happened in Washington. And that was the lesson that I hope many of the extremists learned in Washington. Unfortunately, I don't think they did, because we see it here in New York. First of all, the law is the law. And in New York, I will never allow the insurrection that happened in Washington, D.C. That made a mockery of law and order. And that was a disgrace to democracy and to every citizen of this nation. Second, when you see the ugliness being fomented for selfish political reasons, often, everybody should condemn it. Everybody should condemn it. There are no secrets in life. We know who spreads the ugliness on the internet. You can think, I'm anonymous, Capital Watch. You're not anonymous. People know who you are and who you work for. And any decent elected official, I don't care Democrat or Republican. You want to have differences, have differences. I represent Democrats and Republicans. But don't get ugly. And don't get ugly now when society is so fragile and personalities are under such stress. Times of extreme pressure show us who we are. Times of pressure reveal the true character in people. I believe that. Over this past year with COVID, I've learned so much about individuals, about myself, and about society, and about New Yorkers. You put pressure on people, and any little personality crack or flaw, when you put the pressure on, it explodes. And little insecurities explode. And little neuroses explode. People who I thought were strong and capable crumbled. I saw them crumble during COVID. At the same time, you put the pressure on, you put the stress on, it solidifies the stone. It makes some people stronger. And I've seen people rise up and really respond to their better angels. New Yorkers, by and large, did that. That's how we beat COVID. You see the beauty in people, and you see the ugliness in people. It is disturbingly exposing. Find your best self in this moment. And let's all of us applaud each other when we find our best selves. And let's strive for that. That's what we mean when we say New York tough. Not tough the way they always think. Yeah, we're that. Yes, we are tough. But we're more than just tough. We're smart. We are united. We're disciplined. And we're strong enough to love. That's what we have to find in this moment. And that's what we have found. And when you don't see that, speak up. Speak up. This is our ethos, and this is our morality, and this is what we expect from each other, to be New York tough. And if you're not, speak up.